Hey everyone, it is a beautiful day here in Central Texas. In today's video, I'm going to be showing y'all how I start my onions from seed. First, I'll be going over the seed starting mix that I use when I start my onion seeds, how I plant them in my plastic pots, and then we'll take y'all inside and I'll show you how I get them on my seed starting rack. And more importantly, I want to share with y'all the two reasons I do like to start my onions from seed. The first being I just have a lot better luck when I start my onions from seeds compared to when I buy them from sets. I bought them from sets in the past years ago, and then a couple years ago I started from seed, and I just had so much better luck starting them from seed. The second reason I like to start from seed is you know exactly what is going into your plants. When you buy sets, sometimes you just don't quite know what they might have been using when they were starting those seeds. So that is the second and probably equally as important reason why I like to start my onions from seed. So stick around and we'll get going with getting these seeds planted. So I typically use these Texas Early Grano, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Texas Early Grano heirloom seeds from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, and I've always had great luck with these. As you can see, I've always had a pretty good harvest. This is just a couple of them for the first couple I pulled, but I think I got some pretty good sized bulbs out of these. Last year was my second year growing them, so I feel like I'm getting a little better at it. And last year was also my first time starting them from seed, and since I had such good luck with them, I figured starting from seed every year. This particular variety is a short day. Now you do have your three different types of onion bulbs. You have your short day, your long day, and your day neutral. Your long day onions need about 14 to 15 hours of daylight to bulb. Short day onions need about 10 hours, and your day neutral bulbs are, it's kind of regardless of daylight hours, and they produce pretty well in most regions. But the short day onions are particularly good for the south. We can plant a little earlier down here, which is beneficial to us. So if you're looking for one to grow and you live in the south, I highly recommend you do these Texas Early Grano. Okay, so for starting onion seeds, you need, first of course, you're going to need your seed starting mix. I use a pretty simple ingredient for this, and it does not need to be precise. I don't care what anyone might say or what the internet says. You do not need to make these things very precise. So basically, what this seed starting mix is made of, it's not like a typical tomato or broccoli seed starting mix that I make. This does contain compost. When I'm starting my tomato seeds or my broccoli seeds or bell peppers or anything, I don't use compost. It's just peat moss and vermiculite and perlite. But in this case for onions, I do put compost in it. I don't do any transplanting or anything until, of course, they get into the garden. So what this is made up of is 4 parts of peat moss, 2 parts of compost, 1 part of perlite, and 1 part of vermiculite. And what I do typically is I mix all of this into a big metal container, and then I pour boiling water into that. And what that does is that'll kill any kind of fungus or any kind of eggs or anything that might be in, especially in that compost soil. It kills all that off. So I pour that in there, it sterilizes it, and then I'll let it get to the temperature it is outside, because obviously I don't want to plant my seeds in really, really hot soil. So be careful when you do that, because the soil will get really hot when you do it. So that is the seed starting mix I use. So that's my seed starting mix. I'll show you all the containers now that I'm going to be using. These are just your standard 4-inch by 4-inch plastic containers. I reuse these every single year. I haven't had to get any. I try to be real careful with them. I sanitize them every year, and I've been using the same ones for over 4 years now. So last year when I started my onion seeds, I actually planted them in some empty fruit containers you would get from the grocery store, such as strawberries or something. They already had those nice holes in the bottom for drainage. So I did try that, and I had great luck with them. I had a great harvest. So, but I did have a problem with getting the roots were starting to get a little too root bound in the bottom of it. So instead of that container being about, I don't know, about that tall, this is going to give me an extra inch and a half of space for those roots to grow down and get nice down in there. So I'm going to use these this year. I have 9 of these. I'm hoping to get about 90 onion plants out of this. I think I'm probably going to end up only needing to plant about 60 or 70, so that'll give me a bunch of extra ones in case something goes wrong when I'm transplanting these in the garden. I'll have some extra ones. Okay, so these Texas Early Grano onions, the planting instructions for this is usually start indoors 8 to 12 weeks in advance of planting out, typically 3 to 4 weeks ahead of last spring frost. Does best in rich, moist soil. Last year I planted these about a week earlier than it is now, so I believe today's the 16th, so I planted them probably around December 8th, 9th or so last year, and I think I did them a little too early last year, so I bumped it back about a week this year, because like I said, I think they were getting a little too big and root bound by the time I was getting close to transplanting these out in the garden. So I recommend, if you're growing the Texas Early Grano, and specifically if you live in Central Texas, South Texas, or anywhere down here in the South United States, I would probably try and plant these seeds indoors around mid to late December if you can. I plant these in the garden around February 20th, February 24th, somewhere around there is usually when I get these transplanted out into the garden. So you do want to start these early, not too early if you can, but mid-December, late December is always a great time, I think, to start these. Okay, so this is a fairly simple process. I just load up my containers here with soil. Okay, you don't want to top it off too much. I'll show you why here in a second. I do compact this down just a little bit, not a lot. These seeds need to be planted about a 1/4 inch down. So instead of planting them kind of in there, I did this last year and it worked out beautifully. I take my seeds, I just kind of spread them around here. Again, you can bulk sow these. You can just kind of spread them all around everywhere, and then from there you can thin them out if you want, which is basically what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and thin these out to about 10 or so per container. Okay. So now that I got my seeds in there, it's probably very hard to see on the camera, but they're in there. These little black seeds blend in really well with the soil, so be careful. Okay, so I got my seeds on there, and this is why I didn't come up with the soil very high. I don't like to dig the seeds down into the soil. I compact this down a little bit to a certain height, and then I put my seeds on, and then from there you can work. I mean, you could bring them up and work them into the soil if you want, but this worked out really great for me last year. I just take my soil and then I spread it around till I feel like it's about a 1/4 of an inch or so thick above. I think they can go up to about a 1/2 inch, so you don't have to be super precise with it. So that's all I do. Bring your dirt up, not to the top, about an inch lower, 3/4 of an inch lower or so, and from there put your seeds in, and then take your soil and put it on top of the seeds. Like I said, I don't work the seeds into the soil. Lay them on top, and then I put another layer of dirt on top of that, and that worked beautifully last year, so that's what I'm going to do again this year. So let me get all my other pots going, and then we'll get them inside, and I'll show you how I have them on my seed growing rack. Okay, so I had some extra mix that I made, so I went ahead and threw in a 10th pot in here, so I have 10 total. Hopefully that's going to give me at least 100 onion plants come springtime. So like I said, let's get these inside, and I'll show you how I get them all set up on my seed starting rack. Okay, so here we are on my seed growing rack. We're on the very bottom rack here. I always like to start my onions down low here, and then eventually they will get moved up later once my tomatoes and everything else come on here. So I did forget, I want to give these one more little douse of water before I get them covered up here. Now I am using a heating mat for these onion seeds. I know some sites might say you don't need to use one. However, I used one last year and I had really great luck with these germinating pretty quickly. So I'm going to use it again this year. Is it needed? I'm not sure, but I don't think it hurts anything to use it. I have 2 of them, so I thought why not? If it helps me get my germination a little quicker, then I'm going to use it. So I have my grow lights on. That's only for everyone to see in the video. I won't have these on until they sprout up out of the soil. So normally when I start my plants from seed, I have them in my seed cell growing containers that get these nice lids to keep all the humidity in there. But since I'm starting in these, I don't really have anything that can work like that. I've looked at doing it like this, and I just don't think this is going to work as well as it does on the ones where it fits right over on the cells. So I'm going to be using the saran wrap method here. So now that I got these sprayed down and wet here, I'm just going to lay this saran wrap just right over these. And this will work the exact same way. I've done this in the past and it's worked. I don't completely want to seal off the pots, but I want to keep them covered enough to where it'll keep all that moisture in there. So this will work fine. I'm going to give them about a week to 10 days or so. I think that's how long it took last year for them to sprout. So hopefully I'll get back to y'all with a short possibly on when these come up. So until then, I'm going to keep this light off and keep the heat mat on. Thank you for watching my video. Hopefully this encourages everyone to start their onions from seed. It's a super rewarding process to do. Not only that, when you plant your onion seeds, you know what you're putting into it. When you buy them by a bunch to transplant in the springtime, sometimes you might not know exactly what might have been used when they were starting those from seed. So when you start from seed, you know what you're getting is 100% organic. So I highly encourage everyone, if you have the time and the resources, to start your onions from seed. Again, if you can start them sometime mid to late December, if you live in the South, that would be the best time to do it. I plant mine in mid to late February every year, about 3 to 4 weeks prior to our last frost date, sometime in mid-March. So I highly encourage you, start onions from seed. It's super rewarding when you get to pull those nice big bulbs out in the springtime. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Thank you.